Всем привет! Продолжаем читать Гарри Поттера. So last time we stopped about here, so today we're gonna read page 13, but we will start on page 12. Okay. Так что мистер Дурсель сказал себе, что ни он, ни Петунья ни в коем случае не позволят втянуть себя в творящиеся вокруг странности. Okay, so here we have he couldn't see how he and Petunia could get mixed up in anything that might be going on. He yawned and turned over. It couldn't affect them. Uh-huh. Yeah, they're pretty close in meaning. Yeah, so basically, so Mr. Dursley told himself that neither he nor Petunia, ни в коем случае is a good expression, and it means so ни в коем, and v is pronounced more like f because k is voiceless, ни в коем случае. And that basically means under no circumstances, like, or can be even like stronger, like no way, this is not what should be happening. Ни в коем случае. Sometimes people say it as, so again, literally it means under no circumstances, but we can also use it as like don't do it. Don't do it. In situations like where you offer your opinion about whether something should be done or not, and you're thinking about it shouldn't be done under no circumstances, but that sounds like a little bit too formal. Under no circumstances. People I'd say in English would just say like don't, yeah, or like don't do it. And that would be ни в коем случае. Ни в коем случае. They won't allow, тянуть is really to pull something inside, but in this case, they wouldn't allow to drag them into weird things, странности, that are happening around them. In творящиеся, you already know that it's a participle. We can see it by the yash, suffix yash. Now, втянуть себя во что-то is actually a pretty good expression. So in here we have it as a perfective verb because they won't allow to drag them into it, like as a completed action. But we also have an expression «не втягивай меня в это». «Не втягивай меня в это». Or somebody else «не втягивай моего сына в это». Which basically means don't get me involved or don't get my son involved in something. Не втягивай меня в это. Like, I want to stay out of it. Okay, let's keep reading. Мистер Дурсель глубоко заблуждался, но пока не знал об этом. So, here we just have how very wrong he was. How very wrong he was. I'd say it's pretty good, even though the translator kind of like added «но пока не знал об этом». Again, the translation is fine. I think I actually would just translate it with one phrase. Как же он заблуждался. Как же он заблуждался. And заблуждаться, basically, to be mistaken, to be wrong. So, for instance, you can say «ты не прав», or you can say «мне кажется, ты заблуждаешься». Ты заблуждаешься, meaning you're wrong, and it's kind of like a more literary way to say it. Ты заблуждаешься. It's like a fancier way to saying I think you're wrong. So, как же он заблуждался will kind of take care of the concept that he also didn't know about it. Yeah, just like the translator has shown us here. So, Mr. Дурсель глубоко заблуждался, но пока не знал об этом. And once again, in English we have how very wrong he was. Now let's say, как же он заблуждался? Basically takes care of both contexts. Окей. Долгожданный и неспокойный сон уже принял в свои объятия мистера Дурсля, а сидевшая на его заборе кошка спать совершенно не собиралась. Mr. Dursley might have been drifting into an easy sleep, but the cat on the wall outside was showing no sign of sleepiness. I'd say it's a little bit different, but pretty good translation. So I like this expression here, принял в свои объятия. Сон принял в свои объятия. Well, in English we have kind of like drifting, like сон уносил его. So drifting, or for example, when the wave is taking a person, you know, we use the verb уносить. Уносить. But basically literally to carry away. But here we have принял, принять is to accept, в свои объятия. Объятия is a pretty cool word, I think. Объятия really means kind of like, it's really a fancy way to say hug or hugging or hugs. And I think a fancier way to explain it would be like the embrace. So the sleep embraced him. And then we have сидевшая на заборе кошка. So once again, сидевшая, the cat that was sitting. It's a participle of the active past tense participle. Спать совершенно не собиралась. Yep, I think it's pretty good. She was showing no sign of sleepiness, so she is a little bit different, but I think it's a good translation. So literally, it means it wasn't going to sleep at all. Okay, next. Анна сидела неподвижно, как статуя, и, не мигая, смотрела в конец Тисовой улицы. Okay, English. It was sitting as still as a statue, its eyes fixed unblinkingly on the far corner of the Привет Drive. Yeah, that's pretty much what it says here. So interesting words here. I would say не мигая. And again, remember that if we have a verb that ends in ya, it's a gerund. So basically without blinking. Without blinking. And she was looking, what does it say here? On the far corner, but here we have at the end of the street. So pretty good. Она даже не шелохнулась, когда на соседней улице громко хлопнула дверь машины, и не моргнула глазом, когда над ее головой пронеслись две совы. Okay. It didn't so much as quiver when a car door slammed on the next street, nor when two owls swooped overhead. That's again, yeah, pretty much verbatim. So шелохнуться. Шелохнуться means to kind of like, it's an old verb. Шелохнуться. Шелохнуться is kind of like to move a little bit, to move slightly. And we also use it like an expression, например, for instance, он даже не шелохнулся. Он даже не шелохнулся. Or она, да? Meaning that didn't have an effect. So it literally can, the movement, or you can also say, oh, I was telling him about that, and он даже не шелохнулся, like didn't try to make anything, like act in any way. Yeah, so it can be literal, or sometimes can be used more like as a metaphor for like acting a specific way. I think an interesting thing, like here we have two verbs in the same paragraph that mean to blink. And in here we had не мигая, and the verb is мигать. And then later we have не моргнула глазом. Here we have моргать. Моргать. And they both mean to blink. They both mean to blink, but мигать, blinking can be like with anything, like with lights, you know, if the light goes like bam, 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 that's all like свет мигает. But моргать is only referring to a person's eyes or like an animal's eyes, so like an animate, you know, creature eyes. Like for моргать, you have to have the eyes. For мигать, it just has to be blinking in some way. Okay, And then we have an interesting verb, pronестись. So pronестись, so пронести, pronести means to carry something in your hands for a specific stretch. For example, он пронес флаг страны через весь стадион. He carried the flag of his country through the whole stadium. But пронестись means to like run through specific again area very quickly, like very, very quickly. So here we have no, where's my English one? Like kind of swooped overhead. And I think like if they were doing it pretty quickly, then this is the best way to describe it. They're like пронеслись мимо. Окей. Только около полуночи, будто окаменевшая кошка, наконец ожила. In fact, it was nearly midnight before the cat moved at all. So I would say Russian translation is just a little bit fancier because we have words like окаменевший page here. So окаменевшая is from окаменеть. And again, you can see the suffix vsh, that's a participle. So basically means the one that turned to stone, because каменеть is basically to freeze, as in like not move, you know, turn to stone, literally from the word камень, the stone. Окаменеть. And then we have this ожила, which is жить. Ожить means to kind of like come back to life, to be revived. So this is again from the verb жить, yeah. So with the o, so окаменеть, to become like a stone. Ожить, so, and then sorry, окаменеть, because the stress is here, and then ожить in terms of pronunciation. I was just trying to show that this letter o shows this kind of like change of condition. So окаменеть meaning from movement turning to stone, and ожить from being lifeless to come back to life. Окей. В дальнем конце улицы, как раз там, куда неотрывно смотрела кошка, появился человек. A man appeared on the corner the cat had been watching. Appeared so suddenly and silently, you'd have thought he'd just popped out of the ground. Okay, I would say here English one is much longer, so let me read and then the Russian one. So появился неожиданно и бесшумно, будто вырос из-под земли или возник из воздуха. So in Russian we have two sentences, while in English we have one longer one. Yeah. Okay. In terms of the translation, it's pretty close. The structure is changed a little bit, and there are a couple more elements that the translator added, but basically all of the important aspects from the original are here. So here, I just want to remind you about this word как раз. Remember, we saw it several times already. It's kind of like just exactly at that point. Yeah, remember I gave you in previous videos an example where a husband is driving past the store and his wife is calling and asking him to pick up some groceries, and he's like, oh, я как раз около магазина. I'm actually right next to the store right now. Then here we have неотрывно. So отрывать is really to tear something off. But here in terms of the translation, неотрывно meaning without looking away, kind of like very intently staring at one spot. I wouldn't say it's a very common way to describe it, but yeah, it's pretty good. So here we have появился человек, he appeared, появился неожиданно и бесшумно. So he was kind of like unexpectedly appearing, and бесшумно, quietly, meaning without any noise. Будто, and remember we had будто several times. Ой, sorry. Будто. Да что ж такое? Oh my goodness. What's wrong with me today? Okay, будто. And before we also had the word словно, like as if. Будто, словно, как бы. are all synonyms. So here we have будто. So here we also had it, будто окаменевшая кошка, будто вырос, as if he just like appeared from the ground. So here in Russian we have будто вырос из-под земли или возник из воздуха. While in English, I think we only had just one metaphor. He just popped out of the ground, and that's вырос из земли. While возник из воздуха, it's more kind of like appeared out of thin air. Okay, let's keep reading. Кошкин хвост дернулся из стороны в сторону, а глаза ее сузились. The cat's tail twitched and its eyes narrowed. Кошкин хвост дернулся из стороны в сторону, глаза ее сузились. So here the translator basically translated word for word, but added из стороны в сторону, from one side to another, kind of like, and everything else is exactly the same. And just want to note that since кошка is the word is feminine in Russian, here we're using ее or она, while in English the author is using it. Okay. Никто на Тисовой улице никогда не видел этого человека. Yeah? Okay. It should be easy. Nothing like this man had ever been seen on Привет Drive. Actually, as easy as it is, I'd say the meaning is a little bit different, because here we're saying nobody ever saw this man, like this particular man, while here it's nothing like this man had ever been seen here. I would say a very easy way to fix that would be никто на Тисовой улице никогда не видел такого человека instead of этого. So this way it's like a person like that, такого человека. Or in general, I would say таких людей здесь еще не видели. So let me write it. I don't know if it's worth writing it or not, but like таких людей здесь еще не видели. Еще не видели. So here what I did is I changed one person to many people like that, like as a category, and I switched to the impersonal sentence. As you can see, there is like no subject here at all. Не видели, like people did not see. And here we're switching to the impersonal sentence where we're using the implied subject они. And basically it just gives us this kind of like a sense of commonness, like it was not common. Таких людей здесь еще не видели. I think it will be closer to the idea in the original. Okay. Он был высок, худ и очень стар, судя по серебру его волос и бороды, таких длинных, что их можно было заправить за пояс. He was tall, thin, and very old, judging by the silver of his hair and beard, which were both long enough to tuck into his belt. I'd say it's a very good translation. I want to point out that the translator is using short adjectives instead of long adjectives. So, and this is basically more of a literary style, like there is no change in meaning really, it's mostly the change in style of speaking. So, он был высок, худ, and очень стар would sound exactly the same in terms of meaning. Он был высоким, худым и очень старым. But here I would say, switching to this short version of the adjectives, the translator kind of like raises the level of kind of like overall the text level, yeah, to show kind of like respect to this man. I don't know if that makes sense, but in terms of meaning, it doesn't really change anything. Okay, судя по, so the verb судя is the gerund form from судить, which means to judge. So judging by, судя по, plus dative, of course. And заправить за пояс is basically, yes, to tuck kind of like behind the belt. We also can use this verb with other pieces of clothing. For example, заправить в штаны or в брюки or юбку. For example, if you're tucking your shirt into pants, or shirt or t-shirt into pants, or fancy pants, or a skirt. Also, we use this word in cooking, заправить салат. And that means to kind of like add the dressing to the salad. For example, заправить салат майонезом. You know, Russians use mayo as a lot as the salad dressing. Okay, let's keep reading. Он был одет в длинный сюртук, поверх которого была наброшена подметающая землю лиловая мантия, а на его ногах красовались ботинки на высоком каблуке, украшенные пряжками. Ох ты, окей. He was wearing long robes, a purple cloak that swept the ground, and high-heeled, buckled boots. So I would say just like, again, the translator is just going with like just a very fancy way of describing exactly what the original is saying. So in terms of the language, I would say robes should be just basically одежда, should have been translated as одежда, but again, it's easy for me to say because I watched the movies already, so I know how Dumbledore looks like. Well, the translator basically had to imagine it, and it was probably hard. So what the translator is using is the word сюртук, and сюртук is kind of like an old way to say пиджак, which means a jacket. So this is more like сюртук is kind of like the pidjak of like, I don't know, 18th, 19th centuries. I mean, don't quote me on the history here, but above which there was a лиловая mantия. Лиловая is kind of like, it's a type of purple. And again, it's just like overall fancier style of talking. So I totally see why she changed фиолетовая to лиловая. It just sounds more like fancier. It sounds fancier. And then here it's interesting that in the original we just talk about like that he had those boots, while here we have the word красовались ботинки. And красоваться actually is a pretty cool verb. Красоваться is basically to show off in some way that is connected to the looks. So красоваться, it's kind of like wear something so that people see you stand out because of that clothes. I don't know if it's making sense, but красоваться is actually really cool verb. красоваться. And we also have like красоваться перед зеркалом. Перед зеркалом. And it's, you know, like when you put something like, especially if you're a girl, am I being kind of like, okay, not gender specific, but if you get some like really cool clothes and you're like standing in front of a mirror and you're turning one way and another way, that would be красоваться перед зеркалом. And for instance, mom or the parent can say, or probably the sibling, like, okay, хорош красоваться. Хорош красоваться. Красоваться. Kind of like, okay, stop showing off in front of the mirror. Like, come on, get away from the mirror. Хорош красоваться. Окей. Глаза за затемненными очками были голубыми, очень живыми, яркими и искрящимися, а нос очень длинным и кривым, словно его ломали по крайней мере раза два. So, what we have here is his blue eyes were light, bright, and sparkling behind half-moon spectacles, and his nose was very long and crooked, as though it had been broken at least twice. Okay, затемненные очки. Okay, it's interesting. So the translator used the word затемненный, and by the way, that's passive participle of the present tense, and the one that word darkened. So basically the glasses that are almost like sunglasses, but not quite. So, but in the original, there was like half moon. So here I would say виде полулун, and полулуна is basically half the moon, like something that looks just like half the moon. While пол луны, that would be so this is basically looks like this, yeah. While pol луны is half of the moon. For example, we like the astronauts like walked through half the moon, that would be пол луны. Они обошли пол луны. But when something looks like as half the moon, that would be полулуна. And then the glasses that look like two half moons, I would say виде of полулун, plural. But the translator decided not to worry about that, and she just said that kind of like darkened glasses. And yep, everything else is correct. And here you can see the word словно, which is the synonym for будто. So here we can say будто его ломали по крайней мере раза два. Oh, and then раза два. So here we have раза два, where you have the number after the word. Yeah, so we can also say, let's say, года два, года три, лет пять. And that basically means approximately 2 years or approximately 2 times. So let's say, so here it says, по крайней мере раза два, at least 2 times. Okay. Звали этого человека Альбус Дамблдор. Should be pretty straightforward, and it is. This man's name was Albus Dumbledore. Казалось, Альбус Дамблдор абсолютно не понимает, что появился на улице, где ему не рады. Не рады всему, связанному с ним, начиная от его имени, let's finish, и заканчивая ботинками. That's where we will stop. Okay. Albus Dumbledore didn't seem to realize that he had just arrived in a street where everything from his name to his boots was unwelcome. Well, I'd say a very good translation. So he absolutely didn't understand, like it seemed that he wasn't understanding, didn't understand that he appeared on the street where people are not happy to see him. And in Russian, we don't really need the word to see, like, basically we use the dative and then не or with or without рады. Basically, people are happy or not happy to see this person. So, for instance, a phrase like я вижу, что мне здесь не рады. Не рады, which means I can see nobody wants to see me here, so I'm gonna go. So я вижу, что мне здесь не рады. Не рады всему, связанному с ним, are not happy about everything that is connected to him, and that's again a passive participle in the present tense. Начиная от его имени, I'm sorry, past tense, начиная от его имени, starting from his name, and начиная is also a gerund, yeah, so from the verb начинать, so starting from his name, and заканчивая, another gerund, finishing with his shoes, его ботинками. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think so. I would say the only thing, little thing, начиная, I would say naturally, I would say начиная с его имени and заканчивая ботинками, but от его имени works too. Like it both means starting from, but I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I'm just um, being too picky here. Начиная с его имени, начиная от его имени. Yeah, both work, but for whatever reason, naturally, I would say начиная с тебя, starting from you. Yeah, kind of like the point in time. Okay, okay, now let me read the whole page 13, and we're starting on 12 and finishing on 14 in one kind of like big reading. Okay. Так что мистер Дурсель сказал себе, что ни он, ни Петунья ни в коем случае не позволят втянуть себя в творящиеся вокруг странности. Мистер Дурсель глубоко заблуждался, но пока не знал об этом. Долгожданный, неспокойный сон уже принял в свои объятия мистера Дурсля, а сидевшая на его заборе кошка спать совершенно не собиралась. Она сидела неподвижно, как статуя, и, не мигая, смотрела в конец Тисовой улицы. Она даже не шелохнулась, когда на соседней улице громко хлопнула дверь машины, и не моргнула глазом, когда над ее головой пронеслись две совы. Только около полуночи, будто окаменевшая кошка, наконец ожила. В дальнем конце улицы, как раз там, куда неотрывно смотрела кошка, появился человек. Появился неожиданно и бесшумно, будто вырос из-под земли или возник из воздуха. Кошкин хвост дернулся из стороны в сторону, а глаза ее сузились. Никто на Тисовой улице никогда не видел этого человека. Он был высок, худ и очень стар, судя по серебру его волос и бороды, таких длинных, что их можно было заправить за пояс. Он был одет в длинный сюртук, поверх которого была наброшена подметающая землю лиловая мантия, а на его ногах красовались ботинки на высоком каблуке, украшенные пряжками. Глаза за затемненными очками были голубыми, очень живыми, яркими и искрящимися, а нос очень длинным и кривым, словно его ломали по крайней мере раза два. Звали этого человека Альбус Дамблдор. Казалось, Альбус Дамблдор абсолютно не понимает, что появился на улице, где ему не рады всему, связанному с ним, начиная от его имени и заканчивая ботинками.